Okay, I've heard some sort of rumor that Disney has been criticized for revealing the cast for the Lilo and Stitch remake, and what Sydney Agudong, who is a 22-year-old Hawaiian American actress, will portray Lilo's sister Nanny. Because I know that the 2002 movie is kind of interesting, because I know it's an interesting decision to have the next actor, Billy Magnuson, joining the cast of Lilo and Stitch for an undisclosed role. I know he was originally in No Time to Die, and a lot of fans have realized why they chose according to GeoTV, the reason why the director chose Sydney Agudong is that a lot of people were outraged about why the internet is pissed off at them for discovering why Lilo and Stitch has also hired Maya Kelola, Kelola, to portray Lilo for the new upcoming Lilo and Stitch live action movie. As I know, it's coming out in sometime around 2026. I'm guessing we have no idea what the remake would be for that cult 2002 movie. But, anyways, we're gonna go back in time to discover what happened during production. Chris Sanders originally created the character of Stitch in the year 1985, which was originally going to be a children's book about the little creature that lives in a forest in Kansas, who is actually a monster with no real explanations where he comes from, when he was raised by woodland animals in a farm of rural Kansas. Even though Stitch there somehow crash-landed into a forest where he was shipwrecked from some sort of a cargo ship. Even though I depicted that the animal world was already alien to us, the best contrast between this monster and the place where it lives, I'd recommend you to set it in a human world. For 3 straight days, Sanders created a 29-page pitch book that dealt with conceptual sketches of what Lilo and Stitch would be like. Since then, he based it in Palm Springs, Florida, and he was going to represent Stitch to be a male character to put him with a little girl. Even though Disney was then interested in doing this, even though they had an idea of doing this, so along with Dean DeBlois, who was originally the story co-head of Mulan, was brought to co-write and co-direct Lilo and Stitch with Clark Spencer to produce the movie. Unlike most Disney animated films, this film was very, very different, that it didn't take place in ancient times. It wasn't about princesses or even evil witches and wizards. This movie, however, takes place in Hawaii, because that's why this film got released in the United Kingdom on October 4th, 2002. And thus, it increased a budget of $273.1 million on a budget of $80 million, as the film's success made it one of Disney's few successes from the post-animation Renaissance era in the 2000s, which would spawn 3 sequels, Stitch the Movie, including Lilo and Stitch 2 and Leroy and Stitch. Even though in the UK we called it Lilo and Stitch 2, Stitch Has a Glitch. Even though it spawned the sequel series, Lilo and Stitch the Series, as where, including a 2017 anime titled Stitch and AI. Even though the live action film is still reportedly in development, the plot is simple. So, it all began in the year 2002, where Hawaiian girl Lilo Pelikai is raised by her older sister Nanny following the deaths of their parents. But a mysterious creature called Stitch is adopted by Lilo as a dog, in what he was actually a genetically engineered monster to cause total destruction, in what he uses Leo to avoid recapture from the Federation, but they make a close bond through the concept of Hawana within the extended family, which will cause Stitch to reconsider his intended purpose in order to be part of the family. This film, however, had an all-star cast of actors like Tia Carrere, David Ogden Stiers, Kevin McDonald, Ving Rhames, Jason Scott Lee, and Kevin Michael Richardson. Even though this was one of the Disney animated films alongside Mulan and Brother Bear to be produced in Disney's Hollywood Studios, which was originally called Disney MGM Studios during its production. Even though it was produced in the Walt Disney World theme park in Orlando, Florida, well, kinda near to it, it somehow had something very, very quite interesting. The plot of Lilo and Stitch is kinda simple for its prose, for at least the reception was really, really good in my opinion. Even though it became the second highest grossing animated film to us two at the time, alongside Ice Age, which came out a bit earlier than Lilo and Stitch, I realised that Lilo and Stitch was a completely different movie. Despite the opening of Men in Black 2, it became stuck in third place, while it was battling Spider-Man 2 as 2 and Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones. That, for some reason, throughout the use of the character, Peter M. Nichols states that Nanny's character development had a lot of struggles in what the film appeals to older children better than such attempts by the studio to do so, such as The Emperor's New Groove, Atlantis the Lost Empire, and Treasure Planet. Even though the soundtrack is very unique, even though it used only 4 Elvis Presley songs such as Stuck on You, Suspicious Minds, Heartbreak Hotel, and You're the Devil in Disguise. And thus, this is how it was pretty cool in my opinion. As I realised that there are some pros. For the pros, I appreciate Lilo and Stitch's character development, where Stitch met Lilo and they finally met each other for the first time ever. Because both Jason and Tia were Hawaiian born. Even though Disney promoted this movie with a series of trailers that poked fun at The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, and The Lion King. But the name Lilo also means generous one. That Lilo and Stitch, however, uses a combination of cel-shaded animation through the use of hand-drawn digital cells instead of hand-painted cells. Even though it took inspiration from Dumbo, it didn't use the deep canvas technique that was originally used for Tarzan and Atlantis Lost Empire and Treasure Planet, it had to use 5 shots of the multiplane camera on 3D effects through the use of tone mats, which shaded and shadowed the characters, which kept to a minimum. And it looks really good that most of the aliens are inspired by Disney's Pooh characters, Piglet and Tigger. Even though Stitch was originally going to be a gangster, Jumbo was going to be a disgruntled member of the gang who was left behind during a heist in what he plots to get revenge in the original script. For some reason, the filmmakers think that Stitch was sympathetic when they told him to be more younger towards children and not act a bit too brutally violent. Instead, the concept of what this Stitch movie had is that there are tons of bad qualities out there. Whenever he's messing up Lilo's room, she places a white layer around his neck in a tranquil, state, meaning that Stitch would become a better person in what the platonic use of his relationship with Lilo skyrockets. Even though a hidden Mickey can be seen only several times, one in Grand Council, the other one on Jumbo's platform, another one in photo subjects in Lilo's war room, and also it can be shown on Gantu's ship at the climax of the film. As even though it's quite a bit too Easter eggish due to the film's lack of Easter eggs and cameos, for a funny reason, there are some few awkward reasons why Stitch wasn't conceived to talk for some reason. Even though I felt aware that it's kind of ridiculous to have Stitch not being able to speak so badly. Since then, Lilo and Stitch hold the record of having the most number of Elvis Presley songs for 20 years until Elvis took the spotlight. Even though you were watching Aged Elvis, that would be like a big, huge throwback to that film that you loved. Sadly, this was also David Ogden Stiers' last Disney animated feature film. Even though, before he died in 2018, even though it's kind of sad that his other film was Teacher's Pet, was also not non-canon to Disney, and the reason why it's part of Disney Toon Studios is that he just tragically passed away in it. It's kind of sad, but I understood that Natalie Pellicide was going to be portrayed by Callista Flockhart, and Lawrence Fishburne was originally considered to portray Captain Gantu, or especially Ricardo Montalban was originally going to play Stitch. Even though Ant-Man can be seen in Lilo and Stitch as a cameo appearance, as well as Jumper's red spaceship somehow caused being hijacked by a Boeing 747 from Lihue Airport, somehow crashes through Honolulu through the buildings. Sadly, it was scrapped because of the 9/11 attacks. Despite the tragedy that happened in 2001, Lilo and Stitch was intended to come out for Christmas 2001, and then it was bumped up to summer 2002 by accident. Yeah, despite the really creative imagination behind the film series, I've understood we should give Lilo and Stitch... I've got a really good number to think of. I'm going to experiment this entire movie to get a pretty good 7.5 out of 10. Yes, I knew I got this right. I finally got the rating kinda right to have this movie to get so. Despite the fact that I gave Lilo and Stitch 7.5 out of 10, is a reference to what I saw in Animax Sonic 2 review. But with that out of the way, I have to scratch my head for a bit now, so bye-bye!